right. So I guess I'm just going to get us going. Sam and I are very, very excited to be here today with you all to offer this workshop as part of WFAN's larger workshop series that's aiming to help you all build stronger businesses and organizations through the power of story. We are very jazzed about that theme. And we also had the pleasure of facilitating reflective practice workshops at two of WFAN's recent annual conferences, which was just also a pleasure. So we're really honored to be here to continue the work with you guys. So to begin, we just wanted to really briefly introduce and give a little bit of background on who we are. So Sam and I design and facilitate learning experiences for change makers, such as workshops and retreats around various topics like systemic thinking, community building, emergent strategy, facilitative leadership, reflexive practice, and creative inquiry. My name is Kasey. I use she, her pronouns. I am living in Western Massachusetts on Nipmuc and Pecumtuck land. I'm really passionate about nourishing connections to food, to the land, to one another. And my academic background is in sustainable food systems, and I've worked on a handful of farms. So I love this organization and I love getting to be involved in this way. And currently, most of my work is as an organizational facilitator, a lot of it with Sam. So I work with a national peer learning network focused on green infrastructure, and I help members of that group collaborate together and build relationships. And I also facilitate process for a small strategic planning firm that's focused on helping activist organizations make more impact. So that's very short and skinny on me. Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Sam Novak. I use she, her pronouns, and I am currently in Baltimore on Piscataway land. And excuse me, so like Kasey mentioned, she and I do work together around organizational development, reflective practice, storytelling, all steeped in systems thinking, creative change, shared power. And then I also, my full-time work is with Impact Hub Baltimore. I work with sustainable local economies, and I support sustainable local economies build out their networks, build out their communities. So I do this work, Kasey and I both do this work in variable places all over the country and across the world. And I personally am not a farmer. I have had the pleasure of working with many in my life. I've gotten to do woofing, and I've worked in the food systems. I've worked in restaurants for years and years. And so it is always a pleasure for me as somebody who's always felt like I've been able to just kind of farming to consistently be able to hear the stories and build relationships with the incredible women and folks who do such important work to nourish us. So thank you all so much for allowing me to hear and to be part of it from this point of view and position.
And we'll just say now, and we'll say it again later, a giant thank you to you, Amy, and to WFAN for continuing to invite us to do this kind of work. All right, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of framing of the workshop before we really dive into the practice. So this Saturday is the spring equinox, which is a transition moment, transition moment that's opportune for new beginnings and for planting. Some of us, probably many of us in the room, are quite literally planting seeds this time of year. So for this workshop, Sam and I really wanted to invite the idea of planting a seed that you'll continue to grow and nourish over time. Now, if you're here, that means that you're working in the food system, which is, as we know, in deep need of change, change to address the environmental and social injustices that it perpetuates. So what we're surmising about the group that we have here today is that there are at least two important influences that shape your work, whatever that may be. One is probably passion and purpose. Maybe you're driven to make systemic change, or to steward and restore your land, or to feed your community. Whatever it is, you're likely bringing a heap load of dedication to that pursuit. And the second thing is lived experience. So whether consciously or not, our experiences in the world and of the world shape our work and how we arrive at it, and how we carry it out. So Sam and I think that passion, purpose, and lived experience can be really powerful tools when we capture and express them in the stories that we tell. So maybe that's your mission statement, your business description, your branding, or simply how you communicate and relate with customers, clients, or your community. So today we want to entertain the idea of story as the seed from which all our work grows. And if you can't tell by now, we really love metaphors. So over the next hour or so, we have 3 goals. One is to pause. We really want to create a space for pause, take a moment to breathe, integrate, metabolize. And a second goal we have is to reflect and share. So Sam and I are going to guide you all through reflective practices to explore and play with the stories that inform your work. And we'll also have time to listen and connect to others' stories, because when we share our stories, we're rooting our growth in interdependence. And we found that that's just a really powerful kind of connective practice that helps us not only understand ourselves better by hearing other stories, but to then understand others better too. And our third goal is to make connections. So to help you all connect more with yourselves, more with one another, but also to start maybe playing with some ideas about how to connect your story to the idea of growing your business or deepening your professional practice. We hope that you come away with a story seed that you can plant and grow, and also an awareness of the community of story seeds that are being grown alongside yours. So we also just wanted to quickly call in several of WFAN's community agreements that they used at the 2020 annual conference, which we loved. And we think that these will help set the stage for our activities and help us kind of bring our whole selves into the space. So Sam's going to drop them in the chat. And they are, firstly, move up, move up. So practice both speaking and listening. Be an active inquiry with yourself and with others. Be open to seeing things differently. We can't be articulate all the time. That's a great one. So practice sharing ideas without worrying about perfection. Center a culture of care so that we're supporting and uplifting one another. And lastly, no one knows everything. Together we know a lot. So just a reminder about the power, again, of connection and sharing. Okay, turning it over to you, Sam.
All right. So that is the most Kasey and I will talk, we promise. The rest of this is going to be all you. I want to say a couple things. First of all, everybody is welcome to keep their screens off if they prefer, but the point of this is for us to connect to one another. So if you want to be able to see each other, especially in the conversing part, we do invite you to turn your video cameras on. Also please know that if you're not comfortable, if you're knitting or laying in your sweatpants or not feeling it, feel free to turn it off. If you want to lay with your camera on your sofa, you're in your own home. Be comfortable. We're inviting you all to be here as your whole selves today. And in so doing, we are going to get a little grounded. Everybody make sure you've got pen and paper ready. We're going to do a grounding exercise together to breathe and get present. And then we're going to move right into reflective practice. I give everybody just a few seconds to grab your pen, to get comfortable, to get in a seated or laying position, whatever you feel good doing. When you're doing that, maybe move your shoulders and your chest around and feel where your body is. All right. I'm going to ask everybody to be in their cozy positions. Feel rooted into the ground. I invite you to shut your eyes if you feel comfortable. And we're going to do a very easy 5 breath in, 6 breath out breathing exercise. And I'm going to count us off for the first 3 rounds, and then I'll bring us all back together. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Feel the breath on the tip of your nose. Feel your chest rise and fall. And on the count of 3, we're all going to open our eyes. 1, 2, 3. All right. If you would please grab your pen or pencil and your notebook. We're going to start off with a reflective writing exercise. So the first round of this exercise, I am going to read a series of open-ended prompts to help us explore a little bit about our story. I'm going to ask you, don't overanalyze. It's literally, I'm going to read you a 1 or 2 word prompt, and then whatever is the first thing that comes to your mind and your heart, start writing out. With each prompt, you should get about 30 seconds to a minute to be able to write on that prompt, and then we're going to move to the next one. All right. So I'm going to start the prompts off and do a timer, and then I'll let you know when the next ones start. Is everybody ready? All right. This exercise also is going to be grounded in one specific experience. So this exercise is going to be grounded in our work with food systems. So what has been your experience? What does it mean to do this work in 2020? Prompt 1. I started working in food or farming. My hands. My hands. My hands. I grow. I grow. Farms are. Farms are. I feed. I feed. Rest is. Rest is. My community. I offer. I offer.
When we're off to
We need. We need.
We on? Okay.
We need. Looking forward. Looking forward. How might we? How might we? I can. I can. And the last one is today. All right. So the next step is we would love for everybody to take a minute and take a look at what you wrote and just reread what you wrote. And we want you to consider this question and then underline your response. And the question is, which response to this practice would you want to start the story of your work? Take a minute, take a look at what you wrote, and underline either one of the responses or a few keywords in one of those responses. We'll give you a minute. With which response would you want to start the story of your work? All right. We're going to move to the next part. I just want to say for folks who were joining us a little late, please feel free, grab a pen, sit. We're going to be working on the next part of reflective practice. get comfortable. Feel free to join us right along this way right here. And I'm going to pass it off to Kasey. So continue to keep your hands and your minds on what you just wrote.
Great. Yeah, and if I'm not sure, I know some people did join recently. If you missed that whole first exercise, you could begin this one with the question Sam just posed, essentially, how might you start the story of your work? All right, so we're gonna now do another journaling individual exercise. This one's gonna take us a little bit deeper into your narrative. So holding on to the response, or maybe you underlined several that you feel might best start the story of your work. I'm gonna ask you to reflect on several prompts. So similar process to what we just did, only this time you're gonna have 1 or 2 minutes to respond to each prompt. So we're not writing novels here. Nothing needs to be perfect. Again, just kind of writing what's coming to mind for you on each of these prompts. Okay. So the first prompt is simple. It is expand on the response that you picked. What is underneath what you wrote in the free write for that response that you feel is the start of the story of your work? Just write a short narrative to expand on it. Right, 30 more seconds on this prompt, expanding on your initial response. Okay, so wrap up whatever thought you're on. Unfinished is fine. Second prompt is, Sam, do you know the second prompt? Sorry, I'm lost in my notes.
I got it. How do you feel when you read this narrative? How do you feel when you read the narrative you've written?
Okay, 30 more seconds for this prompt. How do you feel when you read what you've written so far? Okay, so tie up that thought. Our third prompt is this narrative, what everything you've written so far, does it feel aligned with your core values? And what are those values? So is your narrative aligned with your core values, and what are those values? All right, 30 more seconds on this prompt. Is your narrative aligned with your core values? What are those values? All right, 3 more prompts for you. We're halfway through this exercise. The next prompt is, why do you do the work that you do? And does this narrative that you're writing reflect your personal or organizational goals? So again, why do you do the work you do? Does the narrative you're writing reflect your goals? All right, 30 seconds more on this prompt. Why do you do this work? Does your narrative reflect your personal or organizational goals? All right, go ahead and wrap that thought up. 2 more prompts. So next question is, in order to achieve your goal or your goals, who do you need to be in relationship with? And are they part of this narrative?
Can you repeat that?
Yes, of course, thank you. In order to achieve your goals, whatever they are, who do you need to be in relationship with? Or maybe what do you need to be in relationship with? And are they part of the narrative that you're crafting? And thanks, Sam, for adding that one to the chat. Okay, 30 seconds more on this prompt. Okay, wrap up the thought that you're on. Our final prompt, and this is maybe the trickiest, is to create an authentic metaphor for your narrative. So whatever you've just been writing about, come up with a metaphor that you could share with someone who's unfamiliar with you and your work. For example, perhaps you feel like you're part of a mycelial network distributing resources in your community. Or maybe you are a mushroom, decomposing waste and restoring nutrients to the soil with your farming practices. Maybe you see your business as a beehive, collaborating to create something. Or maybe your organization is like a thunderstorm, organizing for resistance and using your voice to spread a message. So just some examples. So again, the prompt is create an authentic metaphor for your narrative that you could share with someone who's unfamiliar with you and your work. Okay, 30 more seconds on this prompt. All right, so wrap up the thought that you're on, and we'll close out this exercise and move on to the next one. All right, great. Well, you've all just done a lot of writing, so kudos, congratulate yourselves on all that work and being willing to just put things to paper in rapid fashion. So we're going to shift gears now. The next chunk of time we're going to spend in small groups having you all share reflections with one another. So we want to invite you to share whatever you just journaled about. Share your fully crafted narrative, share what that experience was like, whatever's kind of top of mind, top of heart for you. Share with others in your group, of course, to whatever extent you feel comfortable. So here's how it's going to work. We're going to send you away for 20 minutes in groups of 3 or 4. One person will begin by sharing their narrative, maybe share your metaphor. I think that's probably a fun one. And they'll just speak for a few minutes to share. And then when they're done sharing, we'll ask the listeners, so all the other folks in the group, to respond in a very specific way. So we would like you to respond by sharing something that you connected to in the person's story. So a good way to, kind of template for that is, it resonated with me when you said blank. So sharing and listening until everybody's had a turn. Please be mindful of time. We'll send little time reminders so you know when it's time to move on, but we really hope everybody gets to speak. Again, going back to that move up principle. That's the idea. Okay, any quick clarifying questions before we send you off? And you probably all know there's an ask for help button. So if you all need me or Sam, you can definitely call us in.
Or if for any reason, if you need to pop out and pop whatever you need, this time, literally these 20 minutes are literally for you all to connect and share your stories. All right.
So there's no breakout rooms. There's just us.
Kasey's about to break you all out. Yep.
All right, we'll see you back here in 20. Hi.
Hello.
I don't have a way unless I don't have a way to like not send you somewhere easily.
It's just fine. Hi, are you sure you don't want to go hop in and join a chat?
You're muted, Amy.
You're muted, Amy.
You're muted.
Oh my gosh. I want to so badly. I've been like helping. I've been getting the Zoom link for folks who like want like late folks. So I wasn't like, I was like trying to do the journaling, but like, I was like, I got to get these folks the Zoom link. So I'm still trying to get one more person set with that Zoom link.
Amy, we'll do a one-on-one with you sometime. We'll walk you through it again.
Yes, please. Yeah. But will there be more like during this session right now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to break out into small groups. And then, I mean, that's only 20 minutes. So then after that, we literally we set a half an hour of harvest so that the whole group could come together and share.
Oh, good. Okay. Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is beautiful.
Do you want to share? We can't do the full thing now, but do you want to share some of like the stuff you've been working on in the middle of trying to get everything done?
Well, I was torn between my hands and I offer. And this is my kiddo's hand. Isn't that funny?
Do you want to pause the recording so that your recording doesn't include us just chatting?
Oh, good call.
Not a lot of people are really excited to hear that stuff from us. So thanks for asking.
Fun.
Process nerd.
All right, welcome back, y'all.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Hello.
Jesus.
You're like these two again.
I know. Hi, you guys. Hi, gals. I'm actually sorry. I just left my little group because I have to run home with this phone and get it on charge real fast.
Oh no.
Okay.
So I can catch. But it was great. It was great. Yeah, I didn't make it home on time. I'm late all around. Hope to catch you in 15. See ya.
Liz is my neighbor.
Oh, fun.
Oh, I love that.
And the one who's always late, right, Aim? Didn't get there. So see you shortly. Get me off this thing.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I think we're all back now. So we're so curious to hear what that was like for you all, and we're actually going to spend the rest of the workshop, the last half hour, kind of in harvest mode. I want to pull all your voices into the room, and we have a couple kind of guiding questions in mind So yeah, wanted to start with kind of asking you all, how did that feel? How was it to share your story and to have others connect to it? And please participate in this in whatever way you like. Feel free to type into the chat, but we're also a small group. So if you'd like to unmute and share, or if it's more your style, you can raise your Zoom hand. Someone know where that button is? In the participant panel somewhere?
Yeah, it's in the participant button, I think. Go ahead, Rebecca. We got one goer already. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah, so if you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a little reactions, and that's where you find the raise hand. What I will say is it was really delightful to get to interact with a couple of people on a little bit more of an intimate level. And it was both of the people that were in the group with me had joined us a little late. So I needed to go back and talk about what we had done, which was really good for me because it made me review what we had done. And then we got to, share some of our stories with one another. And I was able to gain an appreciation for what other people are doing, but also kind of test my metaphor with these other two people, which was really fun.
All right, we didn't ask this, but I'm going to ask Rebecca, if you don't mind, because I'm so curious. Can you read me the metaphor that you wrote?
Oh, sure. So my metaphor, now I'm not going to be able to find it. Basically, I said, I am a detective who reveals the secrets of mysterious wildlife for landowners in Wisconsin.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, Morgan, I think you had your hand raised next. Also, again, just as a reminder, please feel free to put stuff in the chat. If you want, feel free to turn your video on if you want to see each other's faces. If not, that's okay too. Morgan, go ahead. How did you feel about sharing your story in your small group?
Yeah, to be really honest with you all, I had a really brutal day at work, and I sort of had a lot of regret about signing up to do this for an hour and a half after my work day. And immediately, I left that conversation, and as soon as you asked that, I was like, I feel invigorated again. I feel sort of alive again after that conversation. Something that came up was just having the space to sort of be vulnerable, and then having others be vulnerable alongside you just makes you all feel built up. And that was really powerful and really beautiful. So yeah, I just feel alive and invigorated, and I'm so appreciative of everyone's stories and all of the different things that we bring to the table and all of our backgrounds. And it reminds me why you get through hard days and you go the next day. So I'm grateful for that space. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Morgan. I resonate with the regret for signing up for evening workshops for sure. Claudia, I think you're up next.
Here I am. Well, I was just inspired by the two women that I was in group with. And as the person in front of me just said, that is, you feel alive. And to me, I always think of hope for the future, and listening to these two women and the mind shifts and the physical way that they're going to play this out, different places, different times, different challenges. It's just really inspiring. And I thank them. It was great.
Thank you, Claudia. Oh,
Thank
Sam,
you, Claudia. I'm actually, before I move on to Ray, I know you've had your hand up. Before we move on, I'm going to ask you, Claudia, will you please share your metaphor?
Sure. Now, I'm one of these people, so I'm not real concrete. But my metaphor is rain, gentle rain, no extreme events here. So a gentle rain, and the rain feeds our minds, our souls, and our hope for the future.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yes, Claudia, we live for abstract thinking. We do. Thank you, Claudia. That hit all of my heartstrings. Ray, you had your hand up.
I did. I didn't know Claudia was in my group, so I wanted to make sure that everyone else had a chance to speak. And since we already had one group representative, no, all right.
Oh, it's honestly,
Um,
we've got 20 minutes. Everybody's got time to chat and connect.
Well, I would like to echo the gratitude for my group. I felt very heard and seen, and you're not asking, but I'm going to tell you anyway, that I came here via the river. I am a parcel of water in concert and conflict and connection with others. And so I am about to make some what seems to be very pivotal and big and scary life changes. And I felt so supported and heard. And this is going to sound a little woo-woo, and I'm going to stop qualifying my own sentences. I felt worthy of love in that moment of like what I am doing in the best way possible. And it is 100% okay to be sometimes floundering and sometimes killing it. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to feel loved.
Ray, thank you so much. So happy that you had that experience. That's amazing. All right, other shares? I'm curious if anything surprised anybody about that experience. Also feel free to speak to the journaling itself, like how the writing process was for you. Danny, you're up.
So I feel like with the anniversary of the pandemic shutting down, I've been doing a lot of reflecting on patterns in my life, and was so fortunate to be placed in a group with Diane and Shanna, and was two other Wisconsin women who work in marketing. So that felt really, really special to me. And I think I'm just really grateful for noticing patterns and to be in this space today. So I just wanted to share that and give my gratitude for you two ladies. That was such a wonderful conversation. And my metaphor, I work for a small nonprofit in Vermont, and I would say that we're a constellation trying to guide others to realize the value of farmers and food while modeling, researching, and connecting areas of our food system that will help us out of the current darkness. So thank you all. Thank you for holding this. I also had some apprehension about an after work webinar, but I'm so glad I came. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Was there anything else? Was there anything else that surprised you? I'm going to ask the question for the quick responses, the ones where people automatically respond. Was there a response that you had that surprised you? Was there something you want to share about that? We didn't dig into those as a group, but I'm curious. What were the things that were on your mind or your heart that you didn't realize were there? You have a couple options. You are welcome to put in the chat if you don't want to share to the group. You can raise your hand. You can raise your hand virtually. You can also put a finger up. That's one we do. Diane, go ahead.
The rest is, I think as women or farmers and business people, we are always trying to work, and we feel guilty when we take rest. And my automatic response was, and it's taken me a long time to realize that, but that came right off the top of my head, so.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing that, Diane. I imagine that resonates with a lot of us here. Anything else? Any other reflections on these prompts? What was surprising? Anything you found really intriguing?
Okay, we're gonna move into the. Oh yeah, go ahead, Barbara.
I was just gonna share. I don't know that I would say it's surprising, but a kind of an uncovering in our group discussion that really struck me was, and I want to be careful how I phrase this, just a recognition of the importance and value of what I will phrase the feminine principle, or so I don't want to get into binary speak, but that the heart, the emotion, the warmth, ways of being in the world and doing our work is what's, I think we all kind of resonated that that's really important right now in particular, to honor that, and is part of perhaps making some of the paradigm shifts that we're being called to make.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna actually shift gears. We have another question. It's very intentional for us to literally create spaciousness to allow people to think these things through for themselves and for the community. And we're curious, we are curious because this is part of a larger series around how we bring story into our work and into our business. We're curious, how is sharing these stories going to be of service to you and the work that you do?
We have some ideas, but we really want to hear from you all first.
Sam?
Yes.
Hey, could you repeat the question?
Yep, and I'll put it in the chat. Yep, absolutely. Oh, thank you, Kasey. So the question, oh, she did it. How can sharing your story with others be of service to your business or your work? Go ahead, Lauren.
So one of the things I think for me with these prompts that was really interesting and a little bit unexpected was how it helped me to focus my goals in a way that I think the service would be that there's a more cohesive, I feel like there's a more cohesive story potentially than there had been. So lots of ideas, lots of interests, lots of focus areas, lots of places I want to go with what I'm doing. But these prompts were very interesting to me because, and probably something I'm going to be thinking about for a while, because I felt like that the way and the order that the prompts came, I mean, I'm really going to leave today with a more focused story of where I want to go. And I think so the service is that if I'm more focused on understanding how to tell my story, then I'm more focused on being able to share my story, and so potentially being more effective. So that's yeah, it was a kind of an interesting revelation I was just having.
That's great. That is, and by the way, Kasey and I also constantly work on this as well. Like, it is hard. It's hard to remember the root of our stories. It really is. So thank you for sharing that. Chris, go ahead. How are you gonna respond?
Well, I think I was gonna echo what you just said, is that it's nice to have a space to go back to your stories, because it's really hard to think of them on the fly. I work as a communications specialist for a women-focused conservation group, and I hook people up with the press all the time to do interviews. And I was on an interview with a woman landowner the other day, and she told this great story. And I was like, I have to bring out more of these in other women, but also in myself, because you just forget that you have these stories. And I think we become really focused on being subject matter experts, whatever our work is. It's really tempting to just get bogged down in like, I know thus and such about all the things. And that's what people and the press are going to ask us all the time, is for facts and figures and data, and taking some time to reflect on how we can express that stuff in stories, express the number and the truth in stories is really valuable. So thanks for creating the space.
I would say that I totally agree with you on that. And I love storytelling, but I think what it will help is basic good conversation. I mean, if you think about it, we have kind of lost the art of conversation in so many ways, because for one thing, we do have to more or less I'm retired, so I'm not feeling this right now, the pressure of it, but to achieve and to perform and all of those things that the job demands. And so that's where our focus is for so many years. And yet we have had all these rich stories going through life, and we haven't done anything with them. They just sit there, and when we're gone, they're gone. The stories are gone as well. And I think this kind of exercise is just exactly what we need. And I was talking to a friend, a guy, and he happened to be a man, and he was in a group of ours of couples. And he said, "Do you know why I like this group?" He said, and I was waiting to figure out why a guy would be talking about liking this group in particular. And I said, "No, Gene, what?" And he said, "Because we stay on topic for more than 15 minutes. And I thought, that is kind of amazing because at least for me, maybe the rest of you have wonderful conversations with lots of people, but I don't seem to have that."
Barbara, thank you so much for sharing that. You've got the gears turning in my head about like a part 2 of this workshop, which is about how we share story, like how are we exchanging the stories that we have. And I love what you said about like the lost art of conversation. I saw a lot of heads nodding. So thank you for that, for offering those reflections.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think our mode right now is to one up everybody. People tend to, "Oh, well, my grandchildren did this. Well, my grandchildren did this." It's like that kind of, and that's not conversation. I mean, that isn't what we should be doing, I think. That's my personal opinion.
Thanks, Barbara. Oh, and Barbara D, you're up next. We have 2 Barbaras in the room.
I think there's actually 3 of us. The reason I asked the question earlier about, do you mean sharing stories here or sharing stories afterwards? One of the cool things that happened in our group was that our metaphors were all at 3 different scales. There was one that was very much centered, mine was very much centered around plants and a couple of plants working together to support each other. And then there was a story about a farm scale and another one about the landscape scale. And it was really exciting to think about how each of our stories fit in that picture overall, or how we could zoom in or out of our own situations to kind of see further than the scale at which we usually look at, and think about how our story fits in the bigger picture, or how some of the details of it can also make stories. And it's been really helpful because I think I've been thinking about my own work in research as very limited to my own work and the couple of people that I work with, rather than really thinking about like how to take it to a bigger scale. So that was really cool.
That is really cool. I love hearing that. I'm going to jump to you, Lisa.
Thanks. I think it was Chris that said that she realized like sometimes we forget we have stories. And I agree with that. And I think also that we forget that unless we tell the stories, we don't recognize how much we collectively experience. Because without the storytelling, we cannot connect. And I've learned this because I write for just our blog, and I originally started writing about things like what I'm planting and so forth. And then I realized that I really enjoy writing, like it's kind of a therapy for me. And so I just started being really authentic in like talking about struggles and stuff like that. And no one seemed to care about what I was planting, but they certainly related to the struggles. And because of that, the community surrounding me has grown in a way that cannot be described with words. It's not a community that exchanges money. It's not, we are just an energetic community. And we may exchange money and we may help each other out and all those things, but we have a connection now because of narratives. When we realize we collectively experience things, it's not the same exact story, but the feelings may often be the same. And also, I think that every time we tell a story, we really have this availability open in ourselves to just like truly, we learn more about ourselves, we connect more about ourselves, and our narrative may even change over time slightly. And that's because we're growing.
Claudia, you've had your hand up for a while, and I was feeling that. Thank you, Lisa. Claudia, go right ahead.
I may have lost my thread because this was a while ago, but it connected to several people, and I think Barbara with an E. And I wanted just to bring out the intuitive nature that she was talking about, and beautifully said, trying to talk about the feminine power. That doesn't mean just female, but what I experienced in the prompts was just this beautiful, as Lauren kind of said, just this, the stuff that had been percolating in my brain as thoughts and, all these things and learning and all this stuff and springs out there, but yet it has to come together at some point, it has to come together. And so I, in trusting that intuitive sense to gather, to pay attention to that gathering and know it's there and love it, but know that it's, we don't have to worry, it's there, but these writings allowed things to come out that kind of surprised me. Was delightfully surprised. So hearing other people kind of share the same thing, it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to do an Ask Kasey. We didn't talk about this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because it's what is emerging from the conversation. I'm going to ask you all to do me a favor. One of the things Kasey and I love to capture when we do these types of things are the metaphors throughout. And because we're not in person and we can't take pictures and we can't have a big wall up of all of them, I'm going to ask that everybody just type in, if you're comfortable with it, just go ahead and type in the metaphor that you came up with for yourself and put it in the chat so that we can capture it. And we've got about 5 minutes. And one of the rituals that Kasey and I consistently do is we typically end every one of our workshops on a poem or a quote from somebody who inspires us. We do this mostly, it's been something that we've been doing for a long time, and we have recently named it a spell based off of Adrienne Maree Brown. Adrienne Maree Brown is a really wonderful facilitator and transformative justice activist. And she talks about how spells are the things that bring you back to earth and they ground you. And I believe that these metaphors are one version of a spell. And we have a spell that we want to share with you from Joanna Macy. So I originally was going to read it, but Kasey, I would love if you would read it. Would that be okay? So we're going to end together on a spell to ground us all. And then we'll do our just kind of goodbyes, and please feel free. We also have Kasey, go ahead. We have a couple other things we want to share with you first.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam. So we just wanted to point out that next week, there's another workshop in this series, and Amy, feel free to chime in, but we just wanted to briefly say, because it's such a perfect kind of continuation of this conversation, that workshop is about cultivating business engagement through story. And I think it's going to be a panel of the WFAN and SARE advisory board sharing how they use their stories in their business development. So I think it'll be a really great conversation, and we just wanted to put that out there. That's on Monday next week from 4 to 5 p.m. Central Time. And I'll put Amy, I hope it's okay. We're doing some light promotion for you.
Love it. Love it. Thank you.
We also wanted to share with you kind of a 2-page PDF, and I'm going to drop that link in the chat too. So this is a resource kind of guide that Sam and I developed for this workshop to kind of help you continue this work if you're really into it. So what you'll find there is a few ideas about how you can engage in reflective practice like this on your own or in small groups. So just a couple of creative ideas there. And then the second page is mostly just a series of reflection prompts. So if you're ever like, I really need to recenter in story, you could come to this this resource and find a question to get your gears turning. All right, I think that's it. Logistics wise, Sam or Amy, anything to add?
No, I just want to make sure, Kasey, that link that you dropped in, is that the file for the PDF or is it the Google Doc?
It's a PDF.
All right, perfect. All right, I actually am going to read the quote. Thank you so much, Kasey, for that. Amy, do you have any other kind of promotional things you want to put out there before we speak this spell into the world?
Kasey did a beautiful job. I will continue to yield to both of your facilitation dazzlement.
Okay. All right, I'm going to ask us one more time to get present together before we leave each other. So if everybody could sit back in their chairs once again, on their sofas, on their floors, whatever you are doing to get comfortable. I'm going to invite you all to shut your eyes. And we're going to do the in breath for 5 and the out for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, and out. In choosing our story, we not only cast our vote of influence over the kind of world future generations inherit, but we also affect our own lives in the here and now. When we find a good story and fully give ourselves to it, that story can act through us, breathing new life into everything we do. When we move in a direction that touches our heart, we add to the momentum of deeper purpose that makes us feel more alive. A great story and a satisfying life share a vital element, a compelling plot that moves toward meaningful goals, where what is at stake is far larger than our personal gains and losses.
As a very final note, last reflection is, what is one seed you will nourish after this workshop? So let that spell flow through you and consider that question before you sign off.
Thank you all so very much for sharing your stories and being present with us today. It was an absolute pleasure to be able to witness all of you this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sam and Kasey, for doing such a beautiful facilitation. Thank you.
So much gratitude. Feel free to unmute and say goodbye as you sign off, and hope everyone takes care and is well. And good luck with all your planting, your planting seeds.
Kasey, somebody asked, bye, thank you so much. Somebody asked,